Hi. I was a first-year med student. Got struck by lightning. Woke up in ancient China as the emperor's doctor. He said his lower abdomen hurt. I checked my medical app and said, "Your Majesty, you have a ruptured ovarian cyst." Everyone went silent. Because, yeah, he's a man. A first-year medical student transmigrates into an imperial physician, carrying a Baidu Health medical compendium with her. The emperor asks me, "I've had a dull pain in my lower right abdomen lately. What exactly is wrong with me?" I open Baidu and answer, "A ruptured ovarian cyst."
1.
I'm a medical student. On the very first day of my freshman year, struck by thunder and lightning, quite literally, I transmigrated to ancient times and became a glorious imperial physician. Along with me came a Baidu Health medical compendium system. By treating patients, saving lives, and promoting medical knowledge, I can earn achievement points to unlock search functions and online courses. The ultimate mission is to promote the exchange between Eastern and Western medicine. Before I even figured out how to use this compendium, I received my first task: diagnose the emperor's illness and provide medical advice. Reward: 50 achievement points. So when the emperor fell ill and summoned the imperial physicians, I volunteered without hesitation and raised my hand. At first, I worried I wouldn't stand a chance against those senior physicians with decades of experience. To my surprise, they all made excuses and said they were busy. In the end, I was the only one left standing. I stared at the director of the Imperial Medical Bureau with hopeful eyes. He looked around awkwardly, then asked me solemnly, "Physician Qi, are you sure you want to go? According to your duties, you're only responsible for the harem."
Oh, please.
The current emperor doesn't even have any consorts. I loaf around all day, getting paid to do nothing, paid bathroom breaks included. I was bored out of my mind. I said righteously, "This humble minister is also a member of the Imperial Medical Academy. Serving your Majesty is my duty." The other physician sighed. "Little Qi is still too young." What a pity. I had no idea why they were saying that. Full of enthusiasm, I followed the director to meet the biggest boss of my life. The emperor's honored name was Chu Xin. He was only 20 years old, with the delicate, sickly beauty of a frail, young noble. He leaned weakly against the couch, thin lips parting slightly. "If you fail to cure my illness," he said lazily, "then drag all of you out and execute you." Holy crap. My breathing instantly became labored. My limbs went weak. With trembling hands, I flipped open the medical compendium and on the spot, diagnosed myself with coronary heart disease. The emperor casually beckoned to me and asked indifferently, "You're the new imperial physician? Come over and show me what you can do." I walked forward respectfully, putting on a show as I felt his pulse. The dog emperor's hand was as cold as a corpse. While complaining about him in my head, I calmly asked, "Has your Majesty been feeling unwell recently?" His detached gaze lingered on my face for a moment. "Lately, I've had a dull pain in my lower right abdomen." Without revealing anything, I opened the compendium and typed in my query. The director stood in the distance, watching me nervously. "I have no appetite and feel nauseous. What illness do I have?" I immediately searched, lower right abdominal pain, nausea, what disease? Spending 10 achievement points I'd saved by watching ads, a result popped up. I looked up at once and answered confidently and cheerfully, "A ruptured ovarian cyst." The director's eyes flew open, bulging like bronze bells. The emperor froze, then asked blankly, "Ovarian what?" I carefully read it out to him, word by word, "A ruptured ovarian cyst. It may be caused by intense physical activity, external impact, or rapid enlargement of the cyst, leading to a sudden increase in internal pressure and rupture." The emperor fell silent for a moment, then asked, "How is it treated?" The director's face turned deathly pale. He swayed as if about to collapse. I hadn't researched much, so I wasn't very skilled. I only saw the last line of a dense block of text. "Ovariectomy is recommended for patients nearing menopause." Seeing me suddenly stop, the emperor raised an eyebrow slightly. "What is it?" I asked sincerely. Your Majesty, have you reached menopause yet? This time, the emperor finally understood.
Thud.
That was the sound of the director collapsing to the ground.
2.
In front of everyone present, the emperor lavishly praised me. To have a talent like Physician Qi in the Imperial Medical Academy is truly my good fortune. I lowered my head shyly. Then the emperor gently asked me, Physician Qi, did you perhaps overlook one small detail? I am a man. I don't have menstrual periods. Realization dawned on me. I re-entered the query. Male, lower right abdominal pain, nausea, what disease? I nodded in satisfaction. This time it was correct. Your Majesty, you have acute appendicitis. I recommend surgery. Before I could finish, the director, who had just collapsed, forced himself up and threw himself in front of the emperor. Your Majesty, please allow this humble minister to speak. Your condition is not serious, merely gastrointestinal discomfort. With some medicine and a light diet, you will recover in a few days. The smile on the emperor's face faded. He looked coldly at the director. Minister Wen, are you suggesting that Physician Qi's diagnosis is incorrect? The director knelt on the ground, his voice trembling. Physician Qi specializes in gynecology and lacks experience. Please forgive her, Your Majesty. At the same time, I received a notification mission failed. 50 achievement points were deducted, making my already meager savings even worse. I knelt down as well, cursing silently. What kind of garbage medical compendium is this? The dog emperor is just constipated. Eat some greasy fast food and he'll be fine. And you insist it's appendicitis? Let Baidu go bankrupt already. The emperor waved his hand impatiently and dismissed us. The director was drenched in sweat. Gritting his teeth, he whispered, Qi Shuang, you almost got me killed. Do you have any idea? I looked at him closely and noticed his face was pale, exactly the same symptoms I'd had when I first entered the bedchamber. Hesitantly, I asked, Lord Wen, do you also have coronary heart disease? The director was silent for a long while, then said, No, I have a ruptured ovarian cyst. 3. After that consultation, the director refused to let me treat anyone else, no matter what. Whenever the Imperial Medical Academy was busy and I tried to help, there were always some overly enthusiastic colleagues who would insist on taking my place, even if it meant working with a broken leg. I was deeply moved. After a week of doing absolutely nothing, His Majesty personally summoned me to treat Princeton. Right on cue, the system popped up with a second task, sabotage Prince N's plan through Diagnoses. Reward, 50 achievement points. Another female imperial physician I was close to asked me, Little Qi, did you offend His Majesty at some point? I said, No. His Majesty likes me quite a lot. The room fell silent for a moment. Then she asked, Do you know what kind of person Princeton is? I shook my head. After my colleagues eagerly filled me in, I finally understood Prince N's background. He was the emperor's younger brother by the same mother. Since the emperor had no wife or consorts, the Empress Dowager doted on Prince N and wanted the emperor to name him crown brother. Recently, Prince N had fallen for a courtesan from a brothel named Chinwaner. For her sake, he threatened suicide, claiming he didn't have long to live, hoping the emperor would grant his wish. As physicians, we hated patients like this the most, high status and completely uncooperative. When we arrived at Ningxiu Palace, the Empress Dowager was sitting to the side, wiping away tears. On the couch lay a rosy-cheeked, chubby man. The emperor stood by the window, his voice deliberately low. If you fail to cure Prince N, I'll have you buried with him. I hadn't expected such blatant palace intrigue right off the bat. The emperor was practically cursing his own brother to death. I dashed to Prince N's side, grabbed his hand, and asked, Your Highness, would you mind if this humble minister were buried beside you? It's awfully dark underground, and I'm a bit scared. Prince N shouted angrily, In your dreams. The only one who can be by my side is Wanner. I immediately went expressionless. Your Highness, what illness do you have? Prince N stared at me in disbelief. You're asking me? I cleared my throat. My apologies. Where are you feeling unwell right now? That way I can make a diagnosis. I let him perform freely. Prince An's eyes darted around. He glanced at his brother, then began spouting nonsense. My head hurts so badly it feels like it's about to explode. Royal brother, am I about to die? If that's the case, I wish to spend my final days with Wanner. The emperor remained indifferent, but the empress dowager flew into a rage. What headache? I say you got this from playing too much polo. That Chen Wanner is nothing but the daughter of a disgraced official. If you want to marry her, it'll be over my dead body. I pressed the emotionally agitated prince back onto the couch and said evenly, Your Highness, this is meningitis. There may be fluid in your brain. Surgery is required to drain it. The emperor's lips curved upward slightly. The empress dowager sucked in a sharp breath. Prince An was so strong that I couldn't hold him down. Like a fish on a chopping board, he thrashed wildly. Surgery? No, my head doesn't hurt anymore. I made a mistake just now. Now, it's my stomach that hurts. 4. The moment I heard the words abdominal pain, my eyes lit up. Finally, a chance to redeem myself. I fired off questions one after another. Prince N, is it a dull pain in your lower right abdomen? Prince N instinctively clutched his stomach and hesitated before nodding. Why yes, I think so. I got excited all at once. Then are you feeling nauseous now? Any loss of appetite? The Empress Dowager cut in. That's right. This child hasn't been eating anything lately, going on about fasting to prove his resolve. In my opinion, he's just picky and doesn't want to eat. The Emperor looked at me. What does the imperial physician say? Me, royal doctor. The Emperor. I hurriedly corrected myself. Your Majesty, Prince N is very likely suffering from acute appendicitis. He needs surgery. Straight to surgery? This humble minister requests an ultrasound examination. If there is inflammation, then we open the abdomen and remove it. Ignoring Prince N's sudden pig being slaughtered howls, the Emperor drew a long blade, nearly half my height, and handed it to me. No ultrasound. Just cut him open. I trust you. His Majesty's trust was far too heavy. My hands trembled slightly as I held the blade. Your Majesty, I asked cautiously, general anesthesia or local anesthesia? Medium spicy. I took a deep breath, my eyes going blank as my coronary heart disease flared up. Carrying the blade, I walked over to Prince N, held his hand, and encouraged him. Don't be nervous, Qi Shuang. This is just a minor surgery. Prince N stammered. Imperial physician, my name isn't Qi Shuang. I closed my eyes and smiled. This humble minister knows. Qi Shuang is my name. Prince N immediately rolled off the couch, dropped to his knees, and burst into tears, declaring, I'm sick. I made it all up. Rebellion, pure and simple. I successfully claimed the mission reward, then quietly handed the blade back to the Emperor. Your Majesty, as long as you can live with yourself, the rest can be left to karma. Just as the Empress Dowager and the Emperor were about to roll up their sleeves and discipline the child, Chenwana, the disgraced official's daughter, suddenly requested an audience, saying she was already pregnant with Prince N's child and begging His Majesty to grant them his blessing. Chen Wanner was slender and graceful, delicate as a willow in the wind. Even when she bowed, she carefully covered her lower abdomen. The director of the Imperial Medical Bureau examined her and confirmed that she was indeed pregnant. He then looked up at the Emperor with a troubled expression. The Emperor tilted his head slightly, signaling me to step forward. Physician Qi, you do it. Me? Aren't you afraid I'll give your future sister-in-law a very painful abortion? But damn it, another task popped up. Expose Chen Wanner's scheme. Reward, 50 achievement points. What does that mean? Her child is called a scheme. Chen Wanner took a step back and said sorrowfully, Does your Majesty not trust me? The director's medical skills are unparalleled. Does that still not prove I'm pregnant? Your Highness, say something. Prince N was cowering in the corner, trembling. If you treat her, then you won't be able to treat me anymore.
5.
I put on a professional fake smile and asked Miss Chen to extend her right hand so I could feel her pulse. When I raised my middle finger and pressed it against her wrist, Chinwana looked like she wanted to say something, but she held it back. I recalled what the director had taught me. A pregnancy pulse should be smooth and flowing, round and slippery under the fingers, like pearls rolling on a jade plate. But this Chinwana, she had no pulse at all. My expression grew more and more shocked, and the people around me grew increasingly tense. I hurriedly searched. Patient has no pulse but normal breathing. How long can they live? Baidu told me anywhere from a few minutes to a few hours. Chinwana was completely unaware and asked impatiently, "Physician Qi, have you reached a diagnosis yet? I really am pregnant, right? Whether you're pregnant or not, I don't know, but you might be about to have a funeral." I shouted anxiously, "Miss Chun, lie down quickly. I need to perform CPR or you're going to die." Chinwana's expression darkened slowly. "CPR?" I explained patiently. "Cardiopulmonary resuscitation. It restores spontaneous circulation and breathing through chest compressions, artificial respiration, electrical defibrillation, and other methods, helping the patient's vital signs gradually recover." But for some reason, with every word I said, her expression worsened. When I mentioned electrical shock, she suddenly looked up, her eyes flashing with something dangerous. Prince N interrupted me anxiously. "Wanner, don't be afraid. Physician Qi's medical skills are superb. She'll definitely cure you." "Physician Qi, why are you still talking? Hurry up and do it." As soon as he finished speaking, my vision blurred. A long sword suddenly appeared between me and Chinwana, just in time to block several silver needles she had flung at me. Chu Xin stood tall and elegant beside me. I didn't know when he had arrived. Coldness filled his eyes.
Step back.
Chinwana's expression changed abruptly. She glared at me venomously. "So, you really did plan this in advance?" "Me." Before I could say anything, my collar tightened as the Emperor grabbed me and flung me behind him. I watched as Chinwana pulled a soft sword from her waist and started clashing with him, the sounds of metal ringing non-stop. I was panicking like an ant on a hot pan. "Stop fighting. Heart disease patients can engage in intense exercise."
6.
The director grabbed hold of me. His weathered eyes looked at me darkly. "Physician Qi, why did you say Chinwana had heart disease?" I froze. She didn't have a pulse. The director hesitated, then said, "Have you ever considered that maybe you just didn't feel it?" Well, that possibility couldn't be ruled out. My head started to ache. Someone was definitely siphoning off my intelligence. Chinwana was quickly subdued by the guards who rushed in. Chu Xin turned gracefully, sheathed his sword, and didn't spare her a single glance, leaving her only with his dashing back. But since Chu Xin just had to look cool, he naturally didn't see Chinwana, with all her remaining strength, fling her arm upward. A hidden weapon shot out from her sleeve at lightning speed. The guards couldn't stop it in time and could only watch helplessly as it slashed the Emperor's arm. Seriously, does this dragon robe have such poor quality? I clutched Chu Xin's arm and checked the wound. It had only reached the dermis and drawn a little blood. Relieved, I looked up, only to see Chu Xin coldly yank his arm out of my grasp. His breathing was a little rapid, and an unnatural flush rose on his face. Chinwana burst into manic laughter. "Didn't expect that, did you? My hidden weapon was poisoned. Prepare to die, Dog Emperor." As she laughed, she suddenly started gasping for air, her face turning purple. The director stepped forward, felt her pulse, and shook his head. "No pulse." I asked hesitantly, "Teacher, could it be that you felt it wrong?" The director flew into a rage. "Do you think I'm an idiot like you?" In the blink of an eye, Prince N lost the woman he loved. He scrambled over, clutching the body and wailing, "Vena, wake up. You're still carrying my child." I poked him. "Your Highness, are you a virgin?" Prince N froze. He glanced at his older brother and his mother, then said nothing. I said to the Empress Dowager, "Guardian, please step a little farther away." The Empress Dowager silently took a few steps back. I leaned closer to Prince N and whispered in his ear, "Your Highness, you can tell this humble minister now, right? Are you a virgin?" Prince N whispered back, "Yes." The director. 7. Although Chinwana had already been executed on the spot, the sentence she shouted right before her death still threw everyone into chaos. The Empress Dowager nervously ordered the imperial physicians to examine His Majesty, insisting that no matter what, the poison in his body had to be neutralized. The director of the Imperial Medical Bureau carefully wrapped the hidden weapon that had cut Chu Xin with a handkerchief and studied it for a long time before finally letting out a sigh of relief. "There's no poison," I gasped. "Syphilis?" Chu Xin's eyelid twitched, and he shot the director a vicious glare. The director hurriedly corrected himself. "No, no mold. As in moldy. This hidden weapon, it's actually grown mold."
I grew worried again.
If His Majesty was cut by a moldy weapon, could he get tetanus? And could that mold cause an infection? The Empress Dowager panicked. "Xin, you mustn't hide your illness from the doctors. Mother only has 2 children. One is already ruined. You have to hold on." The Empress Dowager and I took turns talking over each other, nagging nonstop until the Emperor's head started buzzing. He propped his head up with one hand, fatigue showing on his handsome face, and said helplessly, "I do feel a bit unwell." Yeah, I could tell. Dizziness, fatigue, emotional instability, irritability. But something was strange. Why hadn't I received a task notification? I looked up and saw Chu Xin watching me with a half-smile, as if he could read exactly what I was thinking. My heart pounding, I entered his symptoms and began eliminating possibilities one by one. Sleep disorder, possible. The dog emperor probably slept only 5 hours a day. Forgive the world before bed. Wake up ready to destroy it. Anxiety disorder, haha, no way. I couldn't even imagine how sunny and optimistic I'd be if I ruled the world. Then there was heart failure with arrhythmia. I asked Chu Xin, "Your Majesty, are you feeling irritable right now?" "Irritable. Palpitations?"
Yes.
"Shortness of breath? Rapid heartbeat?" Chu Xin fell silent for a moment. "Why don't you feel it yourself?" He held out his hand. Confused, I slapped it away, stepped forward, and pressed my ear firmly against his left chest to listen. Suddenly, Chu Xin's heartbeat became fast and heavy, like 100 elephants stampeding. Even his breathing grew labored. "Your Majesty, you may be suffering from heart rhythm failure." "That's it," Chu Xin said, turning around and walking off immediately, as if a dog were chasing him. Me. This dog emperor was seriously hard to deal with. Worried sick about her son, the Empress Dowager reassigned me to the Qianqing Palace, convinced that since I could diagnose things even the director couldn't, my medical skills must be superior. I really wanted to say that there was no illness under heaven Baidu couldn't diagnose. Chu Xin woke up for court before the rooster even crowed, while I, having stayed up late reading novels, had just fallen asleep. He shook me awake, leaned down, and asked, "Physician Qi, how is my condition?" I wiped my face, forced my eyelids to separate with great reluctance, and fought off the drowsiness. "Very good. Full of vitality." Chu Xin smiled faintly. "I thought Physician Qi wasn't fully awake. Since you're so energetic, accompany me to court." I jolted upright like a corpse resurrected. "What?" Chu Xin sat on the dragon throne. I sat beside it, holding a silver needle that gleamed coldly, officially to monitor His Majesty's condition at all times, but in reality, ready to stab myself at any moment. When court discussion turned to rebellion at the border, my eyelids began to droop. I watched the emperor stand up, then peacefully closed my eyes. When the ministers began passionately debating Yellow River flood control, drool slid down to my collar, and my head knocked straight into the emperor's shoe. Half conscious, I vaguely heard Chu Xin's icy voice. "Insolence. I shall execute 9 generations of the one who dares sleep in court." I instinctively stabbed myself hard with the needle, jumped up, and shouted, "Spare me, Your Majesty." I wasn't sleeping, really, I wasn't. The previously noisy court fell instantly silent. Chu Xin looked at me with a complicated expression. "Physician Qi, how can someone your age fall asleep so easily?" I glanced down. There was still my drool on the dog emperor's pearl-inlaid shoe. I the hell could still sleep after that? Trembling, I sat on the couch and forced myself to listen attentively. The ministers began discussing disaster relief for the severe drought in the northwest. I fell asleep again.
9.
When I woke up, Chu Xin was staring straight at me. I scrambled to my feet. Your Majesty, why didn't you wake me? Chu Xin replied leisurely. You were sleeping so soundly. I couldn't bear to. All of a sudden, I felt like he was actually kind of nice. Chu Xin was, in fact, rather gentle. At first, I thought he was a bloodthirsty tyrant, but later I realized that he only looked cold and cruel. He didn't kill indiscriminately. I'd misdiagnosed him multiple times, and he still hadn't killed me. If only he wouldn't force me to study. By day, I went to the Imperial Medical Academy to learn herbs and meridians. At night, I opened the Baidu Medical Compendium and took online courses until my vision went black. Every time I didn't feel like studying, Chu Xin would fall ill. The moment I got distracted, he'd have trouble breathing. The moment I nodded off, he'd start coughing up blood, though the color looked suspiciously like the peach juice he'd had that morning. Thanks to my desperate efforts at studying, I finally managed to brew a bowl of qi-tonifying, cough-suppressing medicinal soup all by myself. Chu Xin held the bowl of greenish-black liquid for a long time before looking at me deeply. Physician Qi, can I trust you? I said, probably not. But Chu Xin tilted his head back and drank it all in one go. I really admired him. I tested this medicine on the big yellow dog the medical academy kept. After one sip, the dog vomited. Chu Xin, on the other hand, didn't even change expression. After drinking it, he stopped coughing. I opened my genetics course and kept watching. 10 minutes later, I decided to get up and stretch. When I looked up, I saw that at some point, Chu Xin had slumped forward with his head on the desk, utterly still. My mind went completely blank. By the time I reacted, I was already crying as I lifted Chu Xin up. His jade-like face was pale as paper, eyes tightly shut. With shaking hands, I reached for his breath and felt nothing. It was over. I'd killed my patient. For a moment, I didn't know whether the patient being dead or Chu Xin being dead was more devastating. He was my first patient, the one who knew my medical skills were terrible, yet still believed I'd one day become a good doctor. And now my medical career and my entire clan were about to die with me. Chu Xin, don't die. I'm begging you. I collapsed onto his chest, crying my heart out. Then suddenly, the sensation beneath me felt wrong. His heart wasn't just beating, it was beating fast. Didn't look it, but his chest muscles were pretty solid too. He suddenly opened his eyes and looked at me helplessly. My sobbing stopped abruptly. We stared at each other for a long moment before he asked, "Am I deaf?" I punched him. I once heard my teacher tell a joke. A patient stayed up all night gaming before surgery, slept for an entire day afterward, and when he finally woke up, the poor anesthesiologist had almost finished writing his suicide note. At that moment, I fully understood how that unlucky man felt. Chu Xin suddenly laughed. "You cried like that, who died?" I said expressionlessly, "Mendel. You know, when you were sleeping in court, the ministers of revenue and war got into a fight and smashed 3 vases. You didn't wake up. I almost thought you were dead too. Let bygones be bygones." I picked up the bowl, with only dregs left, preparing to destroy the evidence. Behind me, Chu Xin said with a laugh, "Sour jujube seed, reishi mushroom, fleece flower vine, 3 sleep-inducing herbs. If the king of hell says you die at midnight, you'll sleep until dawn. Next time, I'm adding bat poop."
10.
I noticed that Chu Xin's illness followed a strangely regular pattern, just like it came straight out of a textbook. Ever since I warned him to be careful about paroxysmal nocturnal dyspnea, he started having breathing difficulties every night, insisting I hold his hand and talk to him as if I could photosynthesize oxygen for him. After I cautioned him not to overexert himself, otherwise he'd feel dizzy and weak, Chu Xin started randomly collapsing on my shoulder. 3 steps and he's panting, 10 steps and he's coughing, 30 steps and he kicks Princeton, who weighs 200 pounds, across the room, and then weakly collapses into my arms. All the peaches in the palace were eaten in one night. Chu Xin could cough up the blood equivalent of 2 people in a single day. In the modern world, he could donate blood 7 or 8 times a year. That would rack up so many credits. I was honestly jealous. Soon, the whole empire knew that His Majesty had been poisoned by an assassin, the poison named heart failure. I explained, heart failure isn't a poison, it's a disease. The colleagues at the Imperial Medical Bureau crowded around me, eager to learn. Then how do we treat it? I paused. Wait a sec. I need to watch an ad first. Why is this ad so long? The director sighed. Chi, you can't keep doing this. What will you do when you treat patients? Revive them in 15 seconds after watching an ad? I laughed. My medical skills are terrible. Who's even going to come to me? But I really underestimated everyone's intelligence. Ever since I started treating the emperor alone, patients poured into the Imperial Medical Bureau. The steps leading to the building were practically worn down by ministers, all of them demanding that only physician Qi treat them. For a moment, I felt like I had become a top specialist whose appointments were impossible to book back in my old life. Some of my colleagues even sold my fast-track appointment slots and made a fortune. The first one, Commander Wang. What are your symptoms? Commander Wang touched his left shoulder and said honestly, my left shoulder hurts. It hurts when I touch it. Me. Then don't touch it. Next. A scribal official from Sichuan, hoarse-voiced, said, Physician, my throat's been uncomfortable lately. Burning hot. Me. You have internal heat. Stop eating spicy food for now. The official asked cautiously, if I don't feel it spicy, can I eat spicy rabbit head? Me. Is the spicy rabbit head showing the same symptoms as you? Does it have a sore throat too? Official. I'll ask it before I eat. The dean of the National University, with a perfectly shaped face, hesitated, refusing to sit. Physician, I had blood in my stool yesterday. Am I going to die? Me. Anal fissure. Tell Commander Wang to be gentler next time. Next. Even princesses came, curious. One asked earnestly, Physician, can my liver fire burn away my palace cold? Me. Menstrual cramps? Do you do moxibustion? The princess froze, blushing, and whispered, for a long time, I seriously wished I were deaf. Crown Prince, just take her away already. After seeing a few patients, I was utterly exhausted. I fell sick that very day, and even the rapidly rising achievement points couldn't lift my mood. The director examined me, taking my pulse as he asked, What do you think you have, aside from coronary heart disease, acute upper respiratory infection, hypertension, and cerebral arteriosclerosis? I stared blankly. I think depression from DDT. This time I really meant it. Baidu wasn't lying to me. My mental state was chaotic, my work ethic non-existent, my manners zero, my head empty, my solution to problems ignoring them entirely. My only exercise every day was sitting in prison, dreaming of blowing up the earth, while at night practicing rooster crows. I went through 7 or 8 different diagnostic tests, and every single symptom matched. I didn't want to be an imperial physician anymore. I wanted to work in a biscuit factory, making holes in every single soda cracker. 11. It was around this time that Prince N invited me to see him. I thought to myself, okay, Prince N might be a little slow, but at least treating just one person is better than a whole army. When I got there, I realized that Prince N was actually plotting a rebellion. He thought my medical skills were extraordinary, so he tricked me into coming, just in case. Me. Couldn't even laugh because I was that just in case. His Majesty's health was fragile, and with no children, Prince N was the closest blood relative to Chu Xin. If he didn't rebel, he'd be first in line for the throne. So, what exactly was he scheming for? But Prince N's entourage was full of talented people, all descendants of disgraced ministers. When they heard the emperor had been poisoned, they tried to push Prince N into rebelling to avenge Qinwaner. The system kept urging me to stop the rebellion, as if I actually had the power to do it. Prince N said to me with a deep, dark look, Physician Qi, you saved Waner. When I ascend the throne, I will appoint you as director of the Imperial Medical Bureau. I blinked. The throne? Prince N. The soldiers in his camp, having heard I was a famous divine doctor, all came to see me. In a single night, I diagnosed 18 fatal diseases, 30 infectious diseases, and 7 hereditary conditions, throwing everyone into panic, including myself. Prince N's men had no standards. They drank raw water and even ate half-raw beef. Worried about contamination, I found that Huanglian could kill insect eggs and suppress some flu viruses, so I boiled some for prevention. While cooking, I remembered that in Prince N's camp we hadn't had fresh vegetables in days, just meat, so I added a generous amount of senna leaves, hemp seeds, and aloe to relieve constipation. Conflicting medicine properties. Sorry, I hadn't studied that yet. Just as the medicine was ready, a crowd barged into my tent, pointing at the pot and yelling. The prince clearly came prepared. He's guarding against us. Crazy, I shouted. Are you all poisoned or what? They nodded as if confirming their suspicions. See? Admit it. That's why the soldiers all got sick. You poisoned them. The medicine is the antidote. I stared blankly as they carried away my hard-boiled concoction, hurriedly protesting. This is just medicine for constipation. Princeton grinned wickedly. Do you think I'd believe that? If it were ordinary medicine, why would you drink it behind our backs? Serve it to the 6 soldiers, 1 bowl each. Drink behind their backs? What? Should I eat poop behind them too? Angrily, I watched them empty my pot. Princeton glanced at my tent and pointed at a bowl of black stuff. What's this? I said coldly. Plum paste?
What?
I snapped. Haven't you heard? Your faint smile is like plum paste. I tasted mint from your lip balm. Princeton waved his hand. Take it away. I lost my plum paste forever.
12.
The next day, Prince N's army launched their attack. I was in the latrine, battling constipation, when I suddenly heard the thunderous sound of thousands of horses coming straight toward me. Anyone seeing this would think the dog emperor had left the palace and gone to the outhouse. Terrified, I pulled up my pants. Outside, a mob was fighting over the latrines, faces red with effort. Princeton clutched his stomach and barged in first. Let me go first. Being able to poop is a blessing. I envied him deeply. But after asking around, I discovered that during the attack, most of his soldiers developed diarrhea. As the army advanced, they scattered like wolves, storming every household in the capital and occupying all the latrines. History would call this the Ensure Rebellion. The few soldiers who hadn't drunk the medicine hesitated and asked me, Divine Doctor, could it have been last night's medicine? Looking at my inexplicably skyrocketing achievement points, I firmly denied it. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Chu Xin personally led troops to search the city, but couldn't find me in any of the latrines. When he finally found me, I was small, weak, and pitifully hiding in a corner, clutching a scented handkerchief over my nose to survive the stench. Seeing Chu Xin, my eyes lit up, and I threw the handkerchief aside and lunged into his arms, only to be pushed away. He pinched his nose. Qi Shuang, maybe you should take a bath first? It was too hot. My romance-addled brain was about to melt. After showering and changing, I confessed my misdeed to Chu Xin. Princeton claimed I poisoned him. He insisted on drinking my medicine. Too bad, Princeton. Chu Xin cut me off. Qi Shuang, you did nothing wrong. Human hearts are far scarier than any illness. I said, not illness. Princeton just had hemorrhoids. Chu Xin remained impassive. Human hearts are scarier than hemorrhoids. I decided Chu Xin was scarier. Chu Xin achieved a complete victory, crushed the rebels, and demoted Prince N to commoner status. Only then did everyone realize the emperor hadn't been poisoned or sick. He had only pretended to be dying to flush out hidden rebels. The Empress Dowager initially wanted to plead for mercy, but Prince N had just emerged from the latrine, stinking all over. She pinched her nose, muttering that none of her children had ever smelled this bad, and walked away. Hemorrhoids suddenly became the city's epidemic, a fortress of hemorrhoids. When Chu Xin and I went to see Prince N, he had lost a ton of weight, from a 200-pound giant to a frail youth. He resembled Chu Xin slightly, but the hatred in his gaze was unmistakable. Chu Xin asked if he regretted his actions. Prince sneered. How could a sparrow understand the hemorrhoids of a swan? Later, I personally performed surgery, ordered Prince to spread his buttocks, and swiftly excised the problem for permanent cure. Prince wept with gratitude and called me imperial sister-in-law. 13. In the third year, I had learned everything the director of the Imperial Medical Bureau could teach, and officially graduated. I then taught what I had learned from online courses back to others, establishing a medical academy and a small laboratory for lab mice in the capital. However, only men enrolled, very few women. Chu Xin helped recruit students, proclaiming to the city that he was gravely ill, untreatable by any medicine, and whichever woman could cure him would be made empress. Thus, girls from all over the capital flocked to enroll, only to realize I had advertised falsely. Close contact with a sickly beauty turned out to mean close contact with a sickly, but I first taught them hemorrhoid surgery. Given the current situation, having a skill like that meant they wouldn't starve. But the apprentices accused me of fraud and tried to drop out. I had to roll up my sleeves and give one of them double eyelid surgery to keep them. Some still hadn't completed training when they excitedly rushed to treat the emperor. Chu Xin had become skilled at pretending to be ill. He would review memorials while expressionlessly claiming headaches, fatigue, palpitations, and tinnitus. The apprentices' faces turned white. They looked at Chu Xin, then at me, and whispered cautiously, "Master, could His Majesty have kidney deficiency? Should we try someone else?" I panicked. How could it be kidney deficiency? How not? I've tested it. I see. Master, then what do you think it is? Chu Xin stopped writing and sighed deeply. When the second apprentice arrived, Chu Xin had just finished reviewing a memorial, staring blankly out the window, ignoring everything, and hadn't touched his food. The apprentice gave me that familiar pitying look, hesitating. "Master, I think His Majesty might be mentally challenged." Me. Suddenly, I understood exactly how I had felt the first time I told Chu Xin he had an ovarian cyst rupture. I exploded. Mentally challenged? You're the one who's mentally challenged. This is clearly paralysis. Didn't I teach you? What were you doing in class? Perhaps my voice carried too far. Chu Xin, from a distance, turned his head, looked at us, and suddenly stood up, walking toward us. The apprentice grabbed my sleeve, panicked and incoherent. He stood up. His Majesty stood up. A medical miracle. A medical miracle. Chu Xin shook his head and sat back down. Despite all the apprentices coming and going, none could correctly identify the illness Chu Xin was pretending to have. Both they and I were disappointed. After guessing for years, we all agreed His Majesty had hemorrhoids. Unconsciously, my accumulated achievement points had become astronomical, but the final task still remained incomplete. No matter. From now on, the path of medicine would flourish. The end.